Shout out to you, sardines, because when all else fails in my house, you are a sensible meal.
Can't do it. That feeling when you wake up to torrential rain and think it must be a dream because hello, crippling drought, but realize it is real and that maybe miracles do exist. But now you're anxious and you can't fall back asleep.
You just can't have nice things. Not that I don't like Blondie. I do. But do I really need to have the tide is high running through my mind every single time I go to the beach?
Ads for geriatric foam shoes with Velcro. In the wise words of Mark Maron, getting old doesn't seem great.
Sometimes it does not. Have such a good day. Hey, worlds. How are you? Welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that by any means necessary, my gods.
We are desperate, please. Episode 140. Sarah, we're on a roll. This is like our third show in 1 week.
Yeah, we for anybody keeping track, we were a little behind. Then we did a couple shows last week. We're back on track this week. I would have made some sort of Twitter joke about 140 characters, but Twitter doesn't even do that anymore, so it wouldn't even be funny. But if you're old enough to know what I mean, welcome, and welcome to all.
Welcome to the show that unpacks the absurdity of everyday life for hopefully your entertainment. It definitely entertains us, and we really do the show because we want to laugh and not cry. I mean, that's really the truth of it.
There's some crying that happens infrequently on the show. I I joke about crying a lot, Heather, and
Yeah.
I'm not sitting around just like
With
sobbing
your head in
all
your
day.
hands.
But I mean, I do. Oh my gosh, what was it this morning? I was driving out to the beach with my dog, and it's early and feeling great. Coffee in hand. We're ready to
Rock and roll.
yeah, we're gonna face the day.
We're going to sing Blondie. We're going to run on the beach.
Well, the Blondie thing only happens once I get there because I'm always thinking about high tide because
Sure.
the beach that we like to go to, you can go there anytime, but it's way more fun for both of me and Otis if the tide is low because there's just way more surface area, to not, get your feet wet kind of thing. So I'm always, as we drive in, it's sort of hard to explain. It's sort of a dramatic drive in. It's really pretty, but you're way up on a cliff, before you kind of go down, and I'm always like, is the tide high? The tide is high. And then it's over.
Moving
So the
on.
entire
That would drive
time,
me
because I
crazy,
do a
too.
little jogging,
Uh-huh.
Otis is, eating seaweed and doing his thing, and I'm, tide is high. And I'm, oh my gosh, stop it, Blondie.
Why? I mean, it's so on the nose, It's so, but it's funny, the crying thing. So yeah, if you're not crying, you're laughing because you're laughing at how sad and funny it is. It's like the dark humor thing. But I will say, those times when you're crying because you're laughing so hard, that is some good crying. That's when I'm like, ooh, I had a good cry because I was laughing my butt off. It's the best.
I know that the term. I don't know that I ever laugh so hard that I cry. I laugh so hard that I pee. I mean, maybe once or twice in my life, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to pee my pants.
I mean,
I'm
same
not
diff.
actually doing it.
It seemed different. I mean, it's just like some liquid coming out of your
Where you're just
something.
like, I'm laughing so hard, I've lost control of my body a little bit, which is a pretty good. Like we should all feel that way more often.
We should. You should not be embarrassed
Just
about
major
that.
endorphins.
Yes, major. I love that feeling. And anyway, I think I talked about this last week, but I'm obsessed. Anything that will make me roll on the floor with laughter,
Yeah,
I'll take
literally ROFL.
it. Yeah.
You're
Ruffle.
into it. Yeah.
Ruffle.
Yeah. There was a funny meme going around.
Gotta love a meme.
Yeah, a lot of memes. They go around all the time. But there was a funny one where I think it was a tweet that somebody had sent where it's like, you're a girl when she loves you. LMFAO. Your girl when she doesn't love you anymore. LOL. You know, where you're like, oh, shoot, my jokes aren't landing the same. She might not like me anymore.
Yeah, those crazy internet memes. Oh man. Yeah, I actually miss the days of early memes. I remember the show we produced way back when, and we used to roll in clips of like early internet memes that were like little video clips, like of that little that little race car, it was like a still image of a race car, and then there was some audio over the top that was like someone's voice like narrating like "Beow, beow, 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 beow." Do you remember that?
I sort of remember
That
that.
was a big
I,
thing on the Martin Sargent show. It still makes me laugh to this day. Sometimes I'll Google it.
Unscrewed.
Yeah, sometimes I'll Google it and just like, oh man, I miss those days because there were some good original memes back then.
Well, the thing about memes is that like trends or fashion, they can be, they get recycled, right? So it's like that meme that you're talking about, I'm like, oh, I've definitely seen that on TikTok recently. And it had to do with like a chipmunk running around, in circles. So you never know.
Yeah. I was so obsessed with that. Do you remember the badger video? And then it was like snake,
Yeah,
badger,
yeah,
badger,
yeah.
snake, mushroom. That thing is amazing. You guys should Google that if you haven't seen it. That's an addicting one.
That is it harkens back to an earlier time of,
Early
when
internet.
the internet was just about memes.
It was innocent. The internet was innocent.
was.
Now it's not. It's ruining us all.
Yeah. I had not thought about badger snake in some
It's
time.
great. It's still up there. You can find it. It kind
I
of
mean,
it brings me
dramatic
joy.
chipmunk, still funny.
Oh my God, still so funny. I love
can't-
dramatic chipmunk.
I don't think I've looked at it in quite some time, but it's like every time, like it was never less funny. It was just
No.
like still so funny.
It's still great. Or maybe we're really like nerdy. I don't know.
Well, probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So, something that I like less than memes is boxes. And we've talked about this a lot. Heather and I both, live on properties that aren't, within walking distance to your nearest Walmart or wherever, or Target or Home Depot, or all the things that you might get something that's necessary for property management that is quite large. And this is something I'm very familiar with. I mean, I've been doing it for years now, but so when I get my dog and cat food, which is, every couple of months, you got to get the stuff, and it's, huge boxes wherever, I can kind of break them down and hide them, and then take sense of like, depending on who's staying here, like if no one's staying here, great, like the recycling bins are all mine, got to put the boxes in there. But if people are staying here, I try to time it so that I'm not just like, oh yeah, welcome to our house, by the way, the recycling bins are completely full of my stuff. So it's like a little bit of a dance. I could put a bunch of like garbage and boxes in my trunk and go to the dump. That could be something that I would do, but don't really want to. So it's been it's worked out okay in my favor. But you also have to get pretty creative about, there are certain boxes that are like, it's not so much that, I mean, they're big and you can break them down, you can, put them in half, maybe put them in quarters, but even then you're like, it doesn't fit. But if you have a good box cutter, you can, just tear that shit up. And then you can get into all the nooks and crannies that are still available in the bins, which is okay, whatever. I mean, that's what a lot of people understand this feeling. But my landlords and I are, a couple weeks out from like the big season of 2022, where everybody's going to start coming, and there's going to be lots of people here with their garbage and their recycling and their cars and their strange
leftover
requests.
food in the refrigerator.
Yes, all of the things. And I've had a couple months of just, being blissfully not doing that. So there's Anxiety wise, I mean, anxiety low, but I
Yeah.
still am like, ooh, things are about to change around here. I mean, Otis right now, as we're recording this, is just like outside, like butt sunning himself. Couldn't have a care in the world. Like none of that happens anymore. When people are here because it's now
They
their
might be
house and
scared
not
of,
mine.
yeah, exactly.
You just, yeah, you can't, we're not sharing space. It's their space, and I kind of, I try to retreat to the shadows. But we did have to order just a variety of things. Like new TV has to be like mounted in this place where there was an old TV, and the old TV has to be mounted in a new place. And I mean, mounting a television is, quite a bit of work. And also,
Yes.
when you get a TV, even if it's not like the largest TV known to man, that box is real big, and there's all this like styrofoam. It just
Oh, I feel it
sucks.
makes me feel so bad. I hate it. I hate all the
Right.
packaging.
And yeah, there was just a variety of other things. Like we had, a ton of lights and like outdoor lighting things, and it's all packaged. I don't know the way that it's going to be anyway, but I mean, we are well overfilled on our recycling for this week, and it's like, oh damn, where are we gonna do all these other boxes? Like, save from going to the dump, we're just going to have to wait until they take the garbage, and then we can like fill them up again, but then they're full again. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's this thing that just never really ends. I don't
Well,
know if you
we,
have this
oh,
problem at your place, Heather.
I actually wanted to chime in because we totally do. I mean, we have, listen, I mean, we have two very popular Airbnbs where like there's barely a night where it's like where there's no guests. And we have tons of recycling and tons of cardboard. And, I don't know if you know all the rules. I would assume you do, but like there's certain cardboard that they won't take. Like the actual recycling company, it has to be that corrugated cardboard. But like some of the other thinner cardboard that maybe has your LaCroix in it, you get a box of LaCroix, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff has to go in a different type of recycling situation. And so my boyfriend, so we have a work truck, we have this like big diesel workhorse truck. Man, it is the bane right now because it takes diesel. It's like it's a beast, and it always needs to get fixed and blah 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 blah. I won't even get into it, but it actually is such a saving grace for us because I can't tell you how many times we've had to go to the dump. My boyfriend actually does dump runs quite a bit with cardboard specifically, but there's places that take, because when we clean up a yard, let's say we have a new tenant moving in and the old tenant was really messy and they lived there for 10 years and we found a bunch of old tires or whatever it was.
Yeah.
There's specific recycling places that he has to go to dump like tires and certain things, which is great, right? But it's not every single week that we have that much stuff, but there are definitely waves of it. Like you're saying, you guys are getting ready to, it's going to be spring and you've got a lot of new guests and you've got like all this new stuff coming in. And so we have times like that. We just get these waves and it stresses me out. I mean, I worry about I worry about contributing to all this garbage. And yeah, I mean, I pay these dump fees. Like I get tons of dump bills, I mean, you got to pay for it, which I think is fair.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
No, they don't.
It's like, okay, you've got, when I first moved in here, it was like there was a small garbage bin. There still only is one small garbage bin, but then there was like also a small recycling bin. And it became clear, especially like people come into wine country, it's like they're drinking bottles of wine. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like a 12 case of wine is the entire bin. It's like, what are you going to do with all the other stuff kind of thing. So we had an additional recycling bin added to kind of the repertoire. And that helped. But
We had to do the same thing.
yeah, nobody uses the compost the way that it should. I mean, I do, but
Yeah.
it's mostly kind of taking up space because
Yeah, good
people
luck
are
getting
just like,
Californians to do that. I mean, like you're supposed to put every type of compostable item in the compost bin. I mean, that's really a lot of work. I mean,
I
if you don't
think
have
also
like a garden and a place to put it.
people also, there's so many things that, and I feel like I've talked about this recently, so please stop me if I have too much, but people think that all the compost stuff that they should be composting can just go down the garbage disposal. And that is not true. Not actually true at all. As somebody who has had to fix a recycling bin or a freaking gosh, what is it? The
disposal, a garbage
yes,
disposal.
garbage disposal. So many times it's like, guys, come on. You know,
Yeah,
you can't put a chicken bone down there. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of that actually can be like composted, and it's not just responsible. It's like, I don't know. Anyway, I could go on my soapbox for that for a long time.
I think we should all take that responsibility though, because it's like, it's our garbage. We should do the research and do the due diligence and find out, like really understand, like educate ourselves on how to dispose our stuff, because it's obviously a problem, you know, and it's sad. And I think a lot of people, everybody should be playing their part. I mean, this is not a PSA, but I do feel really strongly about this, and I'm not perfect, for sure. Like I feel guilty anytime I buy anything, and I have to get it shipped because unfortunately I do live in the country, and what are you going to do? I got a package that showed up the other day. A friend of mine sent me a sweet like gift. It was, you know, an anniversary of sorts. And so she sent me this gift from Amazon, you know, with a nice little card in there, just saying, I'm thinking of you kind of thing. And it was this big box with this nice big candle with like, you know, a glass, like it was a nice candle with like a, you know, whatever, like it had like some kind of casing around it that was fragile. It was sweet gesture, and it was completely broken. There was zero packaging material in there. It literally just like broke in the shipping. Like whoever packed it was either really stoned or pissed off and didn't put any packing material in there, and it totally shattered. Anyway, long story short.
Even then, it's like, you didn't pack it.
No. Anyway.
Well, yeah, it can be, I don't know. I find, you know, the shipping thing, there are certain times where I'm like, you know, we're good. You know, the garbage went where it's supposed to. I take out the garbage on Tuesday nights / Wednesday mornings, depending on my feelings. But, you know, it's like, okay, we got everything out of here. Great. We're starting at zero. But this is one of those weeks where I'm like, we're totally overflowed. And as soon as the garbage people come on Wednesday, we're not going to start at zero. We're going to be like full again until the next Wednesday. You know,
well, there always is the dump.
Indeed.
Nobody wants to go to the dump. I mean,
Heather.
I don't. I mean, if I didn't have a dude to take stuff to the dump, I mean, I wouldn't be doing it. I don't know what I would do. Like, I really don't.
I think for me, it's not so much that I refuse. It's more of just like, yeah, it's not free. And people think like, oh, you just like dump garbage over in the dump and then it's done. Not really. We have it's like a ceiling fan, like a ceiling light fan thing that we replaced. And the old fan was just like, it was just old, you know, the new one looks so much better. And the person that installed it did a really good job, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, he kind of left it on the porch like, well, this is your garbage, you know? And he came back to do another job a couple days later, and I was like, hey, do you want this? Just, you know, just I don't know. People like to repurpose things all the time. Like you could like paint it or whatever. And he was like, no, I do not want this. You know, or I'm like, okay. And like you would
like,
have
what
to
am I
like
gonna do with
chainsaw it to get it even into a garbage bin. It's like, you got to take it to the dump. So
Yeah.
there are just things that you have
It's
to do
true.
sometimes. Living in the country.
Yeah, like in the city, I remember we would put like our old ratty couch like on the sidewalk, you know,
And it would
like
just
hope
go
for the
away.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I remember so many times we'd look out the window like 40 seconds later and it would be gone, and we'd be like, no way, and you wouldn't even see anybody. You'd be like a ghost took it or something.
True. Yeah. There have been
It's
so many
so funny.
times where I've moved out of an apartment. This is in San Francisco mostly.
In cities, yeah.
Yeah, where you kind of like are like, I feel really bad leaving. Like this is a bunch of junk and it's just gone. Like the landlord, the next tenant never even knows what happened. That does happen around here. People will, there'll be stuff on the street and it'll say, like a little
free or
sign that says
something, yeah.
free
Yeah.
or I don't know, maybe they're selling on next door or something, and that's great. I don't want to, I would I would not put the ceiling fan out in front of my mailbox and be like, "Yay, free!" Even though someone might like it, I just feel like,
Yeah.
it's just like it. It seems like I've given up.
You know what they say? One man's trash is another person's treasure, as they
True.
say. But I know,
Well,
I know what you're
yeah.
saying. Well, I'm really lucky because we have these two Airbnbs that, like, if there's something that is decent, let's say it's a lamp that has some, maybe it has like a little nick on it or something. Like I could still, but it still like works. Like I can put it and upgrade what's in, one of my Airbnbs and just make it like a little better and
Yeah.
not have to dump it. So I do that a lot. I try to do my spillover, stuff. Instead of throwing it away, I kind of try to repurpose it in that way. And I have a very clever gardener who will repurpose things into, succulent planters and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is just relentless. I mean, truly, even if it were only my Chewy.com orders, for my large dog and my cat and, all that stuff, like this would already be like, how do we deal? But when it
I hear
comes
you,
to a
sister.
full house, then, all bets are off. But anyway, I just feel, I thank you for letting me vent.
Champagne problems.
True story. I know. It's like
True
it's like
story.
the much worse option would be like Sarah can't afford cat and dog food.
Yes, exactly.
Or so it can always be worse.
Speaking of cats, I'm not going to belabor this, but I just want to do a very, very quick update from my cat from hell situation. I have this like sort of makeshift catio that I think might be working, where I put him outside for a little bit and I close the door and I go back in and work, and he's kind of out there just, smelling the grass. And we are creating Charlie at night and separating the cats, which I think might be working too. And we're letting my other cat Ziggy roam at night, which he hasn't really bugged us much at all, which that might be working. So my theory at this point is that maybe it's because the house is too big and there's this overwhelming feeling, and so when he's crated or he's sort of more contained, he feels more comfortable. And obviously, like, separating them has helped. I think being stuck with each other all night. But I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have thought like, oh wow, a big house is daunting. But so far so good. Knock on wood. It's been actually like a pretty good week. Like Charlie in general has a better attitude. He's more mellow. He's nicer. He seems happier. And so
Yeah.
I'm really stoked because I have not medicated him yet. So that's some good news. And so I was sort of thinking about like this sort of ode to like me time. I was thinking before the weekend, usually I'll kind of plan out my weekend, like even if it's like, I don't know, sometime toward the end of the week, I'm like, what am I going to do this weekend? Usually it's maybe go to the farmer's market, do some yoga, go on a hike. I don't know. It varies. But this weekend, I knew it was going to rain. And I just was like, I really need to chill because it has been one whammy after the next in terms of just like work, slaving, like stressing about just stuff like problems I have to solve and that kind of thing. So I'm like, I really should legit chill this weekend, don't do a lot. And so the whole me time thing. I mean, you guys know what that means. An opportunity to de-stress and sort of, maybe spend some time alone or spend some time how you feel. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can have me time. So I decided that I'm going to watch a little TV during the day, which is something we've talked about on the show that I feel guilty about. When the sun is up, even if it's behind the clouds and it's cloudy or rainy, I do feel better when it's raining. I feel less guilty. But I was like, I'm really into that show Servant on Apple Plus. It is this M. Night Shyamalan. It's a
I
weird
I
show.
I have not watched it, but I'm aware of it from
Yeah,
other folks
I
saying like, oh yeah, like you got to watch this
really
show.
like it. It's very weird and cool and totally my thing, totally my jam. Anyway, so I was like, God, I got to catch up on that, because it's a new season and everything. And so what happens though, it's this vicious cycle for me because I will be like, you need to chill, girl. Like you need to relax. It's important. You got to read the book. You haven't laid in your window seat for a while. Like you got to catch up on your show. couch time. But every time I
Mm-hmm.
tell myself to chill and like I get excited about it, where I'm like, oh God, this week is gonna be so great. The chill weekend comes and like I start feeling anxious about chilling. So then I get anxiety about like that open time of just like, just relax and kick your feet up. So then I end up
Well, because you feel
working.
like you're supposed to be productive.
Yes. Yes.
Even if like no one's, you're like, who, you look over your shoulder, like no one wants you to do that, but
No,
you are just so like, it's so ingrained
I'm so
that
hard
you're
on myself in that
supposed
way.
to, yeah, just like do something, do something.
Yeah, I gotta get some of my to-do list done. I gotta be productive. So I'll work. I actually worked. I actually tore up my office again, looking for some paperwork. And actually I'm starting to work on taxes. It's a nightmare. but but I actually know what I'm doing now, so it's not as bad as it was last year. But then I got ahead on that, which felt good. I threw away some papers, just did some organizing, so that felt good. And I kind of peeled off around like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and watched like not even an hour of TV before making dinner. So it wasn't even like relaxing. But then, so then I was just like, okay, this is great. This hour that I'm chilling and watching my show, thinking, oh, this is exactly what I needed. But then I feel cheated because I barely carved out any time for it. So I realized that it's sort of an unsolvable problem for a person like myself who is always kind of intellectually restless, and I've always had a hard time relaxing. Like I can relax if I work really hard, exercise, and then I have like a chunk of time where I'm like, I'm gonna kick it, watch a
Yeah,
movie
you're
or
like
whatever.
you're already tired.
Yeah,
So you're
exactly.
like you're you've thrown in the towel anyway. Might as well, yeah, like watch Servant and be like, this is great.
And I don't feel guilty. I feel good. I can like really sink in and relish it. But like, yeah, I've got to get like, I have to somehow find this balance. But I'd be curious to hear from you guys. What do you do in your you time? Is it hard for you guys to relax? Do you feel needlessly guilty? Yeah, email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com. We'd love to hear from you.
It's funny. I hadn't thought about this in a long time because he's a nightmare of a person. But this guy that I used to date, this is way back when, so I'm not, nobody
Not
read into it or
calling
anything.
out anybody in
No,
particular.
not calling out anybody, but he worked from home. And this is before a lot of people worked from home. That just was the life that was afforded to him. And he was pretty good at it. And he was rigid in his schedule, which, you know, again, nightmare person, but I did take away some tips from him. So all is not lost from the time that we spent together. But he would, wake up, kind of be computer, doing his thing in the morning. And then he'd be like, it's lunch, and I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to, make some lunch. I'm going to watch one of my sports shows. And it was like, pardon the interruption, or, one of the like Heather, you don't know these shows, but it's like a regular sports show that's been
Sure.
around forever, where like there's like pundits, they're having fun,
Yeah.
they're
I know
making
those.
jokes, but it's
Uh-huh.
also about news. And I'd be like, and you do that like at noon? Like, how do you like? Because to me, and this is still the case, although I don't know, we can get into this, in a minute, because I guess things have changed a little bit. But to me, if my TV goes on, I'm done for the day. That is just psychologically how
Me
I
too.
feel. And if I just watch a little something and then turn it off and then go back to work, that would be perfectly fine. But I'm so used to it just being like, no, this is my candy.
I am the
because
same way.
because I'm done, with my
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, I feel there's something about, it's just not as enjoyable when I turn it on at the wrong time. And there's been times when I think during quarantine, like I would watch a movie in the middle of the day here and there, like not all the time, but I felt icky after. It's like taking a nap in the middle of the day and you wake up and you're just like, you feel like, ugh, like I am a sad sack,
Right.
and I hate
Well,
that feeling.
and
You're not
everybody's
really a sad sack, but it's like, that's how I feel.
yeah. Well, my thing is like, I don't know, I mean, if I were to put like a movie on in the morning, even if like I could kind of get things done at the same time, I'd feel just like I can't focus on the movie and I can't focus on my work. Like it kind of has to be one or the other thing, which is even a conversation you can have with people who are like, "Oh, I listen to music with lyrics all day when I'm working," and I'm like, "See, I can't do that
I can't either.
because it all then words are it turns into a whole
distracting.
like it just brains. But
You got to be
speaking
gentle
of
with your brain.
gosh, now more than ever. Speaking of news and being gentle with your brain is perfect segue because I have, as I know we all have, been trying to keep up on the news of the world as much as possible, and at the same time making sure that the news of the world doesn't just like suck me into a hole to the point where I can't really like do my life. And like, I mean, if I watch BBC World long enough, I will not break down those recycling boxes because I'll just be like, everything sucks, and I might cry.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think like, wow, what a privilege it is to kind of sit home and watch stuff and be like, I don't want to watch it because I might cry. Like I am very, very much trying to walk that line. And I've talked to a lot of friends about this recently, where it's like, one of my friends who's living on our property right now, he and I have this thing where he's like, how long did you watch the news this morning? On a Saturday. And I'm like, 1 hour. And he's like, good. Okay. Yeah. Like I was like 45 minutes. Like, we're both like, don't let it consume your day. But there's a lot of things that I think are important. So I really don't want to be that person who's like, can't handle it too hard. I just want to like look at flowers and pretend, and like put my head in the sand kind of thing. But I also understand that so much of this is so heavy and will ruin you if you let it, that you really have to. It's kind of like taking that idea of like, when do you watch TV during the day so that you can like still be a person, like taking that to like a very extreme level.
Yeah,
is like,
totally.
Okay, do I maybe, and I did this for, I mean, again, we're, I'm kind of alluding to the war in Ukraine right now, but that's what I am thinking about most days, most of the day.
Me too.
And, I was, for maybe about the first week, I would put on cable news in the morning. BBC World News is obviously based in the UK, so the live stuff is a little bit different than what we're used to in the US, particularly us on the West Coast, Heather. But I felt like I could get like a pretty good update in about an hour of like, okay, here's everything I missed when I was sleeping, and like, we're okay, but then it's sort of like, well, but okay, what's the latest on this unfolding story? I got to go to Twitter now. Like, who's on Twitter talking about this? And then it becomes this whole thing, where if I were to say like, hey, coworkers of mine, sorry, I can't handle work today. Life is too hard. Think about, the people who are suffering. It's like, that is not how we all stay stable, right? You can't do that. I mean, you can feel that way, sure, and that could happen, but like that is not the answer for me. Because once I let go, it's like, well, you lost me kind of thing. So I'm constantly trying to, and as we always say, we would love your feedback, because this is something that I think a lot of us struggle with. Well, I know we do. And I don't have a good solution. I do not want to just say, can't handle it too hard. That is not what I'm going to do. But I also don't want it to bring me into a state of despair where I feel like I don't have solutions.
Yeah.
So some sort of happy medium and being proactive and helping those that I can, that's the way to go. But it's when you're consuming news, sometimes you get really caught in the fray.
You really do. And I'm having the same problem because I basically listen to, I have a little Bluetooth radio. I listen to NPR like all day long, and all the stories, there's so many stories and sound bites from people over there. And yeah, I mean, it hurts like listening to that stuff. But I think that at the very minimum, caring and wanting to be informed and being informed is the first step, and just kind of caring about the
Yeah.
situation. Obviously there's a lot of ways that we can contribute. You can buy meals. I mean, there's all kinds of things that I've been researching because I'd like to do something to help, something out there. I struggle with this too a lot, and it's really about finding that happy medium. Because yeah, how far down this sad, it's like that reality thing again we were talking about the last episode. There's only so much reality, like harsh reality, you can take,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like you kind of yeah, I don't know, I think everybody's different. I think it affects everybody differently. And yeah, it's a tough one. It's a lot going on out there.
There is. And, we will not sugarcoat. Like, I mean, we know that so many of you are struggling in your own ways. And I consider myself extremely lucky. you know, all things considered, I do feel extremely lucky, but I don't want to be out to lunch either
Yeah,
about
no.
stuff. And really, and I didn't even bring this up in the first place to be like, well, here's how I do it and here's how I don't let it get me down. It's like I don't know what
What the
that
answer
cadence
is, yeah.
is. I think I could probably do it better. So I would welcome other people's, not even advice. Like it's not like I'm like, give me advice, because again, this is a very personal
It
thing that people
is.
do. But it would be kind of helpful to to hear from other folks, because this stuff, it certainly keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone.
Yeah, me too. Well, I want to say one last thing about it, and then I'm going to move on. But me and my sister talk a lot about how in the last 2 years, with everything that's happened, it's almost like the Earth got like knocked off its axis, and we're in some like alternate reality. And in a way, it helps me think that because, I mean, it helps my sadness, I guess. It's like, well,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about it. We're in this new world, and it's a new normal, and it is what it is. But anyway, so we're not going to continue down this rabbit hole. We are going to talk about Wordle, because Wordle is all the rage, as we all
which,
know.
which we've talked about before, but we're going to talk about it again.
Yeah, because Sarah and I actually, full disclosure, Sarah and I, and we ping each other's Wordles every morning. I actually really enjoy the ritual. I don't know about you,
Oh, it's
Sarah, but
it's
I
it's
love
my.
it.
You're always slightly ahead of me, and I
Yeah,
don't know why. I
because I
think
get
probably
up
because
early.
like you go into Wordle where like I'm like I gotta like put my contacts in and make some coffee and maybe
Yeah.
like make sure the dog goes out for a pee. But I feel like, within about half an hour, yeah, we're like, what'd you get? What'd you get?
Yeah, totally. I love it. It's actually like a really fun ritual. And sometimes actually, I would say 100% of the time I have one cup of coffee while I'm doing my first cup of coffee while I do the Wordle. But I mean, I got up at like 5:30 today. In fact, my cat Ziggy was meowing, and I did hear him, and he woke me up early. I probably would have slept for another half an hour, but it's sometimes I'll work a little bit first, check my email, look at the news, and then I'll sit at my window seat with the Zig and drink my coffee and do my Wordle. But yeah, lately I'm anxious to do it, so I get right into it. But like with all like rages, like Wordle, it just like kind of came into our world, and like we don't even know what life is like pre-Wordle. But there's always these like knockoffs. There's just so many of them now. I remember when Wordle first appeared, there were like a few knockoffs, and I'm like, how does this happen? Like, I remember starting doing the French one, which is called le mot, like the word is what that means. And
I think it's pronounced Lamont, Heather. I'm kidding.
but like it makes me think about like, so did those French programmers like late at night, like they jumped on the bandwagon, they're like, let's make a French version. Like, who
Yes.
did that? It's so
Yes.
funny.
Well, the thing is, I mean, Wordle, the humble program that, as we know the story, was designed by somebody who was like, this will just be like a fun thing for me and my
Totally.
wife.
Yeah.
And then it became a, phenomenon, and then the New York Times bought it. But even before that, people were like, hold on a second. If anything has this much attention, if you make a clone, you might get money.
Exactly. So I want to know, how do we feel about all these alts, these alternative Wordles? And so I dove in a little bit, and Sarah, you and I have chatted a little bit about some of these alts, and we're playing some of them. So the one thing I wanted to bring up though is that when I play the alts, the French one doesn't count because that's a different language. So let's just, any foreign language ones, I
Yeah.
don't think count. They're just different animals, right? But when I do a regular English Wordle alternative, whatever it is, I feel like it takes away from the novelty of doing Wordle once a day, the original Wordle. In a way, it kind of pulls away I'm sad when it's over, when I finish it in the morning and I'm like, I have to wait 24 hours, but there's
It's
something
like a
about that
dilution
special.
of the fun. Somehow.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm cheating too. Like I'm cheating on the original Wordle. It's a funny thing. Anyway, I'd be curious to hear what y'all think. So yeah, again, the foreign language ones don't count, but there's a few that I wanted to note here. And I wanted to ask you, Sarah, I know you've played some of them, but there's a couple that I've played recently. There's this crazy one that's called Absurdal. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I read the
No, I
directions.
haven't.
And it made me so tired, I couldn't even do it. I'm like, this is the most
It's too much.
like awful sounding game. Like I want to like shoot myself. Like this is terrible. It's something about like, it's like the inverse. Instead of finding one word, you have to go through, like read the directions and you'll totally know what I'm talking about. And then there's like
Okay.
the Dordle and Quordle with the Q, which is essentially like, you, instead of playing one word,
Wordle I have played.
yeah, you and I tried it. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I should take another stab, but they're like, where
Wordle
you
is
have
one of those
to-
games where, it's sort of hard to explain, but it's like you're kind of playing four games at once, but it's still the same rules as
Yeah.
Wordle. So I mean,
but it's the same word you're trying to get to,
well,
or are they all different words?
they're all different words, but the rules apply to all four quadrants. So like if you're like, I don't know, a word with an E, it's like, well, might be in quadrant one, but not the other three. So now like the E has to be. Anyway.
I don't know if I like it. Like I that sounds, it doesn't, it's like, it reminds me of like Sudoku or something. Like I actually don't like Sudoku. Like I love word games.
Oh,
I do.
love Sudoku.
I don't love it. I don't know. Anyway, so
Well, and that's a brain thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're clearly very good at word games. You don't have to
I
like
love
every word game.
crosswords. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I asked my mom, she's very committed to Wordle, as are many of her friends, as are we. And I was like, because, so Quirtle, which is just hard. It's just hard.
It is hard.
But I did get it the other day. And by the way, like this is something that I can do on a Saturday when I've got some
Yeah.
free time. Like I can't do this during the week. Like who's got the time? But I got all of them and I was like, heck
Did it feel
yeah.
good? Like, was it
Yeah, I
satisfying?
felt very accomplished. And so
Yeah.
I immediately sent it to you and sent it to my mom. And I was like, have you ever heard of this? Because I'm very good at it. My mom was like, oh my God, I play Quirtle every day.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
that's awesome.
oh, sorry. She's
Wow.
like, she said, and I quote,
Way ahead of you.
I just consider it practice.
Actually, no, I think that's great. I mean, that's,
Which is like, you know what? If that's what it is, awesome. Like I do feel like it's a good brain teaser.
It is.
You're getting stuff going inside your mind. You do feel happy when you get things right. If you don't get things right, you're like, see,
I kind of get like competitive with myself. I'm not very competitive.
Yeah.
I've noticed that I'm more competitive with myself. Like I want to do good. I want to be smart and I want to come across smart and I want to kick ass, but like, I'm not like that competitive with other people. Like I'm happy for other people when they do well. I'm not like,
yeah.
I've always been that way actually.
If anything, I competition. Like I'm like weird vibes.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
just
I'm
both
not.
like
It's
each
funny
other.
because I was a very like I loved team sports. I was very sporty spice, but I was notorious for not knowing the score in like soccer games because I was so immersed in the game. I didn't care. I really didn't care if it was a good game. I was like, I had so much fun. This was such a great game. But on the other hand, when I'd play tennis, like I was on varsity tennis, so it was like one on one. Man, I had a hard time with that because if I screwed up, it was me, and I would get mad at myself. I wasn't like
Yeah.
what's his face throwing the racket or anything, but I definitely noticed like I was very competitive with myself.
John McEnroe.
John McEnroe, yeah,
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 you're
yeah.
not really like him, Heather. Uh,
But
you've
but
never really
so
come across that way to me.
But this whole alt Wordle thing. So a couple more things I want to mention is so they now have ones with like 8 and 16 quadrants, Sarah, which is like just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean 16. I mean, I don't know. I
Well,
kind of want you to try that and let me know, or maybe I'll
I
try
don't.
it. I don't know.
I don't.
That seems
I know.
crazy. It would take all
Well,
weekend.
and this is the thing. Like, it's like I don't know. What is a good even comparison of this is like I don't know, you get like a toy and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is the toy of the century." Like all the kids want the toy and then all of a sudden they're like way more other toys that are like that first toy, but they're
Sure.
not quite the same.
Yeah.
And maybe they like try to add like all sorts of bells and whistles, but like nobody really asked for that toy in the first place.
Yeah,
That's kind of
totally.
how I feel about some of these games
Yeah.
where I'm like, okay, you can like go 16 quadrants. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't really know like how that makes it more fun. It makes it like more like insane.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
okay, here are the ones that I did like. Well, was one in particular that I did enjoy. So there's the dirty ones. There's the Lewdle, for lewd, Lewd. And that was, they said it was
didn't
a
even know
five
about
letter,
that.
but when I did it, it was a 6 letter. So maybe they moved on already. I don't know. But I was like, wow, my 6 letter dirty vocabulary is quite limited. I was like, I came up with a few things, but I was a bit stumped. But I preferred sweardle, so like swearing. At first, I was like, Swirtle?
Heather,
What?
by the way, just kudos to you. You know a lot more about these alt wordles than I do.
Well, I've been very curious because I do love. I'm like, what are the best alt wordles? Because I'll play those, like the top two. So I've been trying them out just to be like, okay,
Yeah.
this resonates. Like I like Sweardle because it's only 4 letters, and there's a lot of 4 letter swear words, and it's kind of fun because it's like you're
I
being
can think of
bad.
a few. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could think of a few off the top of your head. Anyway, I had a fun time with that. And then
Kinda
there's this
obvious.
one that I know you are a math whiz, Sarah. A lot of people out there may not know this, but Sarah did very well in math in school. So I have one for you. It is called Primal. And it sounds like a total nightmare, but maybe you'll like it. You have to guess a 5-digit prime number.
Oh,
So you go
yes.
through all, like it's the same exact game, but instead of a 5 letter word, it's a 5-digit number.
Oh, so it's
Primal.
Primel.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It looks really hard. Anyway, and then there's the
Also has a
Judel, which is kind of fun. It's like Hebrew and Yiddish. I mean, like Mazel Tov or I don't know. Anyway, fun stuff. But then there's the one that I didn't try that I want to try that looks fun is that, well, it's essentially Wordle. It's called Wordle Unlimited. And that means you can just do it all day long. Like it's the same game as Wordle, but you don't have to do it once a day. You can do it all the time if you want. But I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you emphatically Wordle or are you emphatically against Wordle? Do you have any alts that you like? Please email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
There are a lot of people in my life who, like I'm not like I would send you my Wordle score at 7 a.m. in the morning, no problem, Heather, because I know you'd be like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
let's talk about what words we used. There are other friends I have who are just like, shut up.
Yeah, totally. Of course.
And that's fine. Like, you don't all have to like these things. Word games are just, they're fun. But I think that there is something, and my mom and I have talked about this too, where my mom was like, thank God it's just one word a day, or I would do nothing else. I would
know.
just keep, you know, trying to like get a good score. It's like, it's good that they cap it for your
I
own
think so too.
sanity,
I
you know?
agree.
And I'm with that. I think, you know, the alt games are fine. I just looked up the prime number one where I'm like, whoa, it's a prime number that's 5 numbers
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that all
That you got to be a
day. No.
serious whiz. I mean, that's like on another level. I'm not even going to try to do that. Like I
I
have
mean,
no
I don't
desire.
like being good at math. Like, I don't know a 5 digit prime number off the
Who
top of my
does? If
head.
you
Like, I
do,
just be
please
like,
email us. Hi at havesuchagoodday.com.
yeah,
You're a
seven,
genius.
seven, seven, seven.
Ooh. But what about palindromes? That would be a fun one. Maybe guess
Ooh.
the palindrome.
Well, you'd have to make it, I think.
Yeah, that would be
Because if you
hard.
saw it, you'd be like, yeah, that
Yeah,
is
you're right.
one.
That's true.
But you might be onto
Fun
something
idea.
here.
Yeah,
Might
maybe.
be
So
some
to you
like
software
oh,
engineers out there,
it could be like an
get on it.
anagram type thing where it's like,
Yeah.
here, we're giving you these words. NPR does this sometimes, but like they're
They
like
do.
news quizzes.
Totally.
You know,
I
where they're
listen to
like,
those.
here's a yeah, like here's a thing, and then you have to make it an anagram, and then it's supposed to be another thing. They're really hard.
And the people that are on, like, I'm like really impressed with people. 'Cause sometimes I'm like, I'm pretty good at word games, but then I hear these people on the radio and I'm like,
No, they're like
oh
really
man,
good.
they're
They're
like
like
on another
Jeopardy
level.
people.
Yeah. They're the people
Yeah.
who write into the New Yorker and like try to come up with like a clever caption for one of their cartoons. Like they like legit do that all the time. I'm not that person. I wish I were, but I'm not.
I mean, sometimes you read the captions, and you're like, it wasn't that right.
Well, I know, like I could have come up with something better.
Yeah. But then it's like, but
I'll
then
never
it's like,
do it.
dun dun dun. But you didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're all busy out here breaking down boxes.
That's right.
Sorry, coastal
Going to the
elite.
dump.
Well, listen. As we wrap up this always fun-filled episode of Have Such a Good Day, we always want to remind everybody that if you are not already a patron, and many of you are, so thank you so much. We love y'all. Patron gang strong. Woo woo. You can become one of us. Patreon.com/have such a good day. If you have any questions about it, want to know, how it works, maybe, I don't know, you're not ready for it, do email Heather and I at hi@havesuchagoodday.com. We're always happy to answer questions. But just real quick, got a new Discorder. That's Adam. What up, Adam?
Yeah.
Really happy to have you, and anybody who is capable. I know times are tough for a lot of folks, so boy, we get it, and we do offer the show for free. But if you are in our patron gang, and you can part with $5 a month or more per month,
It's
you
well
can join our
worth your
Discord.
money.
We hope so. We certainly have. We've amassed such a great group in there, and
Yeah.
I say this every show, but I love you all so much that I just want you to feel our love. So thank you for being with us, and I will not cry. I
They
promise.
are the best. And sometimes I'll have days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard from so and so in a long time. I wonder, are they okay? Like they're still there.
Well, that's
but
how it
they're
goes
not
with
there.
internet friends.
Yeah, that's true.
It would be so fun to do like a fun meetup one day.
I know, it really would.
And we're not there yet, but
Well, I believe that Adam is in New Zealand. Am I correct about that? I think his
that is what Adam said. Yeah.
yeah. We've been chatting today actually because he joined today about our favorite pastries. What do you know? But I was curious, what kind of pastries do they have out there? And he mentioned something called Lamingtons, ginger crunch, and caramel slices. And I'm like,
Oh.
what the heck? I think we have to have our meetup in New Zealand because I'm like, what is a Lamington? I haven't Googled it yet, but I've never heard of
I
that.
consider myself pretty well traveled in the world. Never been to New Zealand.
Oh, he told me a Lamington.
One of the
is
things I would love most is to go.
Seriously, it's a moist butter sponge dipped in chocolate, then coated with coconut.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that
Are
looks
you
really
kidding me?
good. It's like, it looks like cake, but with like, I mean, who doesn't like shredded coconut like on anything?
Well, some people don't,
Yeah,
but
you're right.
they're crazy. Like first of all, yeah, like cake, chocolate, coconut. I mean,
Yeah.
what's not to like? I would just like shovel that into my mouth every
It
day.
kind of sounds like a snowball, like, like a Hostess snowball. That's what it kind of sounds like, right?
Kind of, but they don't have chocolate
No, it's more pink and white.
covering and
Yeah, you're right.
ugh, I don't know.
Interesting.
Snowballs are like just. I mean, no, thank you. But well, anyway, Heather and I could go on a tangent right now about lots of things. But Adam, you've given us a lot to think about.
Yes, this is true. We will not talk about Hostess for the next 30 minutes. I promise.
And if anybody has like the best treats, even if it's like, I don't know, some like little place down the street from your house that's like regional, you'd never know. I mean, I have a few places around that. In our previous episode, I talked about Sightglass, which is not like, it's not exactly a hole in the wall, but also not a ginger scone that you would just like come across in a grocery store. You kind of have to go find it. So the more the merrier.
Well, Long Welsh did tell us today that there is a chain of bakeries in Wales, and it is called Gales, and they are, I guess they're expanding from London.
Gales from Wales?
Gales from Wales, and they have a cinnamon bun that he says is quite incredible, and he's had a lot of them. And so I asked him, does FedEx deliver? Because I would like to try that, but I guess maybe we'll have to fly out there instead.
And then it's like, and it's like
radio silence.
Wah, wah. I wasn't exactly going to give you the cinnamon bun. I was just going to eat it.
By the time it gets out here, it's probably not going to be all that good.
Well, that's
don't
the
worry
thing.
about it.
That is actually one of the things I think is very true about a good pastry is that you got to get somewhat close to the source. I mean, maybe you're not, there in the bakery with them, but yeah, there's so much traveling and packaging until it like turns into something that like would have been better a few days ago. Type thing.
Yeah, totes.
Oh, supply
Totes,
chain.
Sarah-Lane.
Well, listen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up episode 140 of Have Such a Good Day. And thanks, everybody, for being with us. And we're going to do it all next week.
Whether you like it or not.
Until then, I will not be Heather.
I will definitely not be Sarah. I'll be Heather forever.
That's right. Have such a good day.
Later.